Metropolis City Council order Monday, September the 14th, 2015. Call roll, please.
Barfield.
Here.
Canada.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
McManus.
Here.
And Short.
Here.
Thank you.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for prayer. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come tonight thanking you for the many blessings that you have given each and every one. Be with Mr. Mizell, dear Heavenly Father, that his results for the test will be good. Be with each and every one in our community, dear Heavenly Father, that has lost loved ones. Be with the sick, not only be with the sick, be with the caregivers. Be with this city council, dear Heavenly Father, that each and every decision that we make will be for the betterment of the community. Be with our armed service personnel, not only on foreign ground, but in the United States, guide and direct their lives, bring them safely home to their families. Be with our law enforcement folks, dear Heavenly Father, for the loss of a patrolman, dear Heavenly Father, right here in our own area. Be with his family. We ask in thy precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Need a motion to approve the minutes of the 8/24/15 meeting. Moved by Mr. McManus, second by Mr. McGuire. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire. McManus. And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
We did have a citizen request, Mr. Charlie Akron, which is not in attendance, so we'll just move right on along unless we have another citizen that has something to say. I think it's just kind of good old family week back there. So. First item on the agenda, Mayor's Report. Motion to accept request to purchase leads online for the Metropolis Police Department in the amount of $2,128. Harry, would you like to explain that? Well, let me get a motion first.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion by
I got a lot.
Mr. Short and a second by Mr. McGuire. And Mr. McManus. Just give them to them back. All right, Harry.
This is an investigative tool that we've been using, actually Acting Sergeant Griffey's been using for the last couple months. Most of the larger departments around here use it. They enter stolen things in there, they enter MOs in there. It's a computer-based tool that instead of having to go to 10,000 different meetings all the time, stuff that can be used and we can develop patterns on, such as like the church burglaries we had. When we put that information in there, it turned out Williamson County was having some of the same type of problems. It turned out our offenders weren't the same, but it's just one of the examples. Stolen jewelry and stuff is very popular, vehicles is very popular because of the pawn shop requirements. A lot of the towns that have pawn shops will enter stuff that those owners will give them that they think is suspicious. And that way we get it out in a more timely manner. It just saves our detectives numerous hours of late work and driving and stuff that they won't have to do. And it just helps bring crimes that are local into a bigger picture to find out if there's other ones that are using them as well.
Mr. Massey, is this a program, computer?
Yes. Yes.
Is it an annual thing? Or
Yes. Yeah, it comes to just a little bit like 18-something a month for the computers because it'll go on all the detectives' computers and the detective sergeant computers.
Do the pawn shops report to you on their activity each day, like, but
Yes.
just, I know it's in the sheriff.
Yeah, it's called the yellow sheets. We do get them.
And this will work in conjunction with that.
Right, and stuff that we get, that we see that strikes our fancy that might be readily identifiable because of their unique characteristics, we can actually put into the system and say, Karnak has a burglary and they're missing a 5-sided brooch with an eagle on it or something, and we see it here. We put it in there, all the departments that are on this program can look at it and say, here we go. Or say they get a burglary and 5 guns were taken, but the owner don't know all the serial numbers, but he knows the makes and models. We can put that in there, even though we can't put it in the state computer because we don't have enough information. We can put the little bit stuff that we have there, and hopefully we can make a bigger picture.
I have a feeling that when the air conditioners were sold from the community center, the coils were cut out. Was that before you come or after?
That was before me.
Okay, they cut the
I wouldn't
coils
have
out of 2 air conditioners, and then they sold one completely. If we'd had this, I think we would've caught them.
Right. Yeah, that's a good possibility. Because there is a lot of air conditioning stuff, especially in Williamson County, in the Marion area, they're
Yeah.
getting hit like crazy. Doctor's offices and dentist offices and stuff like that.
All right, thank you, Chief. We do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada. Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, motion to accept establishing the hours of 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday, October the 31st for trick or treating.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Hall and second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, motion to accept partial closing on Market Street from 11th Street to the alley on Saturday, October the 31st, between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. for the Emmanuel Baptist Church for their annual trunk or treat.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Carroll. Second by Mr. Short. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item. Adopt a resolution to provide local match and authorization design engineering agreement for improving a segment of 12th Street from Catherine Street to Pullen Road.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. McGuire.
Is this a federal match?
Yes, this, you guys actually approved this almost a year ago, but it takes that long for the paperwork to come right back for
Well,
IDOT.
if it was a federal match, they probably wouldn't get it.
It's federal money, and then we use local, MFT to match it.
Yes, okay.
Right.
I think it was 2 years.
It's been a while, but it took that long, the paperwork just got here last week.
It's been long enough that they're using that money writing in that big book and stuff like that downstairs.
TJ, somebody call us.
We do have a motion, we do have a second, and it's good to have the humor in it. It does take a long time.
It does.
Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
In my report, just think about it. We will possibly need a water, light, and street committee meeting on or around the 30th day of September. If we could, we're going to need water, light, and street. Frank's got some stuff that he needs to actually, some supplies to work on them pumps. And
Actually, compromise, let's just cut down.
pumps.
But we do the work ourselves.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Short, if we can, we'd like to have an ordinance committee meeting on that same day. That'll give us a week or two to get that all lined up and everything like that. And if there's any other committees, let us know between now and then, and we'll try to get them all in one afternoon where we're not up here every other day. So tentatively, it would be on September the 30th. And we'll start them, of course, in the afternoon and go from there.
Remember trick or treat out.
Yeah, yeah. Next item, corporate council report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just threw it on here. I was trying to get these done, because both of these are a little bit time sensitive. First project, and we have discussed these in Mr. McManus's committee, in closed session. The first project is the renovation of the Huddle House restaurant, and we followed it down the line that, we've given you all a copy of, the letter from Mr. Long, who's the owner of it's now Acey's, used to be Cheers, that owns Huddle House. This is a business district project, and they're wanting to kick that off pretty soon. I don't know exactly how soon, but I mean, they're ready to sign it. They have looked it over. They did say it was fine by them. The agreement met with their approval as well. If you remember, business district was designed, we use a 1% sales tax. We collect that. There was more than enough money in the fund to cover this. This would actually be the second project in this district. The first one, if you recall, is we helped put a water meter into the Super 8 so that they could get on a metered sewer rate. This will be the second one. Both of those sort of demonstrate how we can use these funds that they're collecting to help improve a business. We can handle it however you wish, but I did have it on here in case you want. This is the first reading, or first time, as the full thing is presented. If you want us wait and adopt it, I suppose we can, but we probably do need to get it done this month. So it's up to you guys.
We do have a motion to suspend the rules. We need a motion.
I'll have the first.
Mr. McManus. And we have a second by Mr. Short.
What ordinance was this?
It's gonna be 16.
Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we need a motion to adopt the ordinance. Mr. McManus.
I'll second it.
And you get to, Mr. Short.
What's the timetable they looking at on completing this?
It takes them about 2 weeks, they said is what, now, once they start, it should take them about 2 weeks. They'll shut down, push it through, and open back up.
Yeah, he's actually gonna interview tomorrow. They're getting ready to hire about 5 people.
Well, that was the last conversation I had with him. He was gonna ahead and do the hiring that he had promised us he would do. Yeah. So,
2 week turnaround?
Yeah.
and
he
they
does
called
have a
Friday,
local.
they called Friday and said, cause I'd run a draft by them, they said, looks perfect. In fact, they were gonna try to, they'd probably give one to, Mr. Canada to bring over tomorrow, cause she was worried about getting it over here in time for the meeting tonight. They were that anxious to sign and get going, so. I talked to, Treva Elliott, who's kinda like their financial person over in the office.
There is a local contractor that's going to take care of that for them,
Appreciate
so that's a good thing.
it. Yes.
We do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item, if you think, this property we're talking about is the property where they always held the outdoor concerts down at Harris. It's a paved parking area, it's behind the fence, it's across from the Baymont. Back in 1995, that was rented by the city to players for 20 years. That lease will expire in October, that's why the push to get it done. It used to pay us $2,500 a year. They've agreed to go up to $5,000, which was what you asked me to try to get a year. We tied increases every 5 years to the CPI index, so that if over 5 years CPI goes up 10%, then the rate goes up 10%. It's a 10-year lease with 2 5-year options. We reserved the wharfage rights and made it clear we wanted to be able to use those, and they're in agreement with that. They just didn't want us to do anything that might hurt their business, but as I explained to them, our intention is just really to use the wharfage rights. It expands what we already have there. And they too called Friday and said, this is fine, this is what we want, because I sent that out last week, and said they're ready to go ahead and if we pass it, pay us right after the 1st of October. So,
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 2015-17, approving lease of real property with Southern Illinois Riverboat Cruises Incorporation upon its passage.
Second by Mr. McManus. That will give us an extra several hundred feet wharfage rights to go on what we've already got down there. And there's actually, I know one dead man down there already. So that will benefit us when we increase, the wharfage rights.
One question.
Yeah.
Are they gonna just stop it where they got the parking lot there, or are they taking the bank down too?
Well, it actually goes down to the bank, but it excludes everything that's in the river, under the river, and the wharfage rights, the lease does. So in essence, it goes down the bank, but here's the thing, to get to that dead man, there's actually a little road that somebody put in
Yeah.
down to there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they put it in or
Harris
somebody.
put that in
Harris put
because
it
they were digging out under the boat, that's how they haul that stuff
They
out.
still use that. They were down there about 2 weeks
But
ago.
that road is on us, so that already provides a road to access that dead man with. I guess we come away with a road out of this too.
It goes to low water mark, it actually goes out in the river,
Yeah.
several feet,
It would, but then it turns around and excludes everything that's under the water,
Under
the
the
water,
water, okay.
and the wharfage rights as well, so.
Oh, that clears that up.
Yeah,
They don't need anything down there.
they just use it to be able to access, get a diver down there. It's not, but like I say, that road would not take much, that if we needed to put a truck on it or something to get down to that dead man, it would not be hard. It would be very easy.
We do have a motion by Mr. Carroll and a second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. Short.
Yes.
And the mayor.
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 2015-17, approving lease of real property with Southern Illinois Riverboat Casino Cruises Incorporated.
Motion made by Mr. Carroll, second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
And the mayor.
My next item,
Yes.
Sorry, I forgot you
Very
voted, yeah.
seldom.
That's right, I forgot.
Well, it doesn't happen very often. You can forget no more than I get to vote.
And I made a note of putting one on Jan, the note on Jan, so she'd remember to call your name.
She calls my name a lot, but it's in vain most of the time.
The other item I'm gonna pull, but let me explain. This is the house that's located behind L&W, it faces, and we've had abatements, we've had cleanups, we've had everything. And one time we started demolition there and they fixed some things. The owners have basically walked away from this property some time ago. We've been working with City National Bank. City National Bank has a mortgage on the property to try to find someone who would buy it and tear it down. And we thought as of Friday that we had a deal. Some folks were willing to buy it. The bank was going to take a loss. The bank was going to pay taxes. And we were going to be asked to let our abatement liens go. Now, on abatement liens are behind mortgages. They're subordinate. So you gotta pay the bank before you get collected abatement. Demolition lien is just the opposite. If we tear one down because it's dangerous and unsafe, then that lien actually comes ahead of the mortgage. So, we thought we had this worked out over the weekend. The buyers had sort of second thoughts and they backed out. And so we're back to square one. I'm thinking right now what I'm gonna recommend is that we probably talk to Maggie, see if the bank would consider tearing it down, or see if there's some way we could obtain title to it so we could tear it down, but have them release the mortgage, in other words, okay? So that if we tear it down, we don't have to go through the hassles of putting a lien, foreclosing a lien, doing all the paperwork in court or going to court. That would be the other alternative. Nobody's gonna win on this thing, and so the question is, how do we get out with the least amount of damage? If we actually have to go to court and they keep their mortgage, then we wind up spending thousands of dollars in the court plus the demolition cost, which, as we all know, on a small lot we don't get back. We just don't see it.
Does this owner live in the ticket?
No, they actually live here. I think they're renting an apartment now.
Okay.
I think they fell on some hard times and.
I know at one time there was water running all the way through that house, across the front porch and out on the ground.
Well, and we need to do something because every time she has it boarded up, somebody tears the boards off, it's getting used. We have reason to believe that there, with certain criminal elements stashing things there from time to time. Squatters are landing there from time to time, and
They're doing
it's
that
just,
all through town.
Well, I know, it's just, it is a constant problem.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
right.
put a sign up, property of City of Metropolis, stay out. That's an invitation right there.
I know it's been a problem for 18 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll make a
Here's a
motion to
vacancy.
approve the release of abatement liens on 107 East 7th Street in return for commitment to tear down.
I'll second that.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand. If we get a commitment from somebody to tear it down, we'll release our liens,
Yeah.
correct? Right now, we don't have that commitment, but you're gonna give the mayor authority to go ahead and do that if we would get that.
It
Okay.
says in
But in the
return for
meantime, if
commitment
they'll
to
give
tear
us the
down.
property, you'll bring that back.
If they wanna give us the property free and clear, I'll bring that back to
We
you
need to
first.
bring back.
Yeah, I'll bring that back to you. So that's fine. That gives us authority to move if we need, if we
that
get an
Mr. Carroll?
opportunity to. Yes.
House where somebody building student wall.
Well, we thought so. We thought perhaps at virtually no cost, they'd be willing to just take it and tear it down, but, he didn't, he backed out.
But they don't live next door for one.
No, I'm talking about the other one.
Oh, the other one too, yeah.
Yeah.
We've had,
Little
we've
side
had it about 3 times. All right, we do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have one more thing. There've been, you all may have been hit up about it too, and I think this may have been why Mr. Akron was coming tonight. And I had a few local business folks complain about their gas bill, small businesses, getting an adjustment about, I don't know, a month or so ago, a couple months ago. They're having they've always had a facilities charge, if you will. And it went from 20, and I think residential got one too. Residential is now 1096.
No, it was, and now it's 23.
23, well, business was 29, and now it's 84, okay? Obviously, the city, we don't have anything to do with that, that's Liberty Utilities. And we've explained that to a number of folks, but, of course, they question, how did this come about? And it had to go through and be approved by the Illinois Commerce Commission, okay? And in fact, it was approved back in February of this year. And I don't have, because municipal utilities are typically exempt from Commerce Commission jurisdiction. I don't have a lot of experience with the Commerce Commission, but in the past, anytime somebody applied, an investor-owned utility applied for a rate increase or some different charge or some different standard with the Commerce Commission, they had to give notice of some sort. Now, they don't give notice to individual customers, so they don't mail a notice out. They publish a notice. That's what I learned today. Basically, I had Mike Jenin up at the agency look at this just to see what had happened. And he couldn't tell where they published the notice. So I did contact the planet this afternoon to find out if they had ever received a notice. I had them go back and look 3 or 4 months even prior to this to see if they'd got any kind of notice. She'd not found one as of this afternoon about 5 o'clock, unless you know something new, Tara. They had not found one yet. I know that this also took place in Harrisburg because Liberty has the gas lines in Harrisburg. Heard from some business people there that were very upset. In fact, it's a little higher in Harrisburg. What has happened, and I did learn this today, that we had several people at because the electric agency also houses the gas agency. There is an Illinois gas agency. We have several people there that understand the gas side of the business. Because gas rates did go up for a while. Now, they've been really low here the last few years. But people, just like with electric, people started looking for ways to be more efficient. And so they put in higher efficiency furnaces, higher efficiency water heaters, higher efficiency other appliances that use gas, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. But because of that, gas consumption went down. And when gas consumption went down, the gas companies figured out, well, we're not gonna make it all back just raising rates on the first so many therms or decatherms or whatever. So they began using these facilities charges more or less as a way of upping their minimums, if you will, okay? And it's not just Liberty. Ameren's doing the same thing. The other major gas suppliers are doing the same thing. And really, the only recourse, from what I understand, is to go through your legislative representatives and bodies and push back. That's something that we may want to look at. The other thing, and I don't know how much leverage we will have or would have, but the franchise, the city gave a franchise to United Cities Gas several years ago, okay, that allows them to run the gas lines in the city, use the right-of-ways and easements that were public easements and things of that nature. And in return, there were some things granted to the city, but well, that franchise had a life or a term to it, and that term comes to an end next year, okay? So we're gonna be asked, I'm sure, to renew that franchise, and maybe this is the type of thing we need to talk about with the gas company about how we can minimize these types of increases and how far in advance maybe the city can get notice so we can at least notify customers. I mean, if we, legally, they may not have to notify us, okay? But it certainly would have been great if we could have known at least, and then alerted the planet and alerted the chamber and other local business, so they could have been on board before this went to the Commerce Commission. And I gave you this because I know that there are some business people that are talking about it. In the way it works, it's per meter. So you've got some of these businesses, or shall I say, maybe we got some commercial buildings, for example, that house multiple businesses that may have multiple meters going on. I know that mention was made to me that Mike Souders is getting hit pretty hard with this because he's got some buildings that have multiple meters. And so
down there does, I guess.
yeah, so you're paying $84 now per location, and that's a $55 a month increase, and that's pretty hard to pass that on.
This don't apply to residents, does it?
That particular
That one
increase
doesn't.
did not.
But
Now,
there's one
residents,
on there.
It
residents.
will later.
Well,
It
I
is
think they actually
Well,
got one. I
yeah,
just
yeah.
went out and
Months ago.
had them search
Yeah,
the commercial side, Bill. I didn't have them search the residential, but I
Okay,
believe that,
okay.
I think they
We
got
All
one.
I've heard of is
$24.
commercial.
Yeah.
Well, we've heard a few people call us about the residential side, okay?
Yeah.
Did yours? Okay. well, we've heard a
$23 or something like that.
Yeah.
It
And
went from 10 to 23.
Harrisburg complained about, they said residential went up in Harrisburg
The
too.
city of Metropolis gets free gas on some of our places.
Some things, yes,
The gas bills on my phone.
yes, some things.
But here's the thing about it, somebody's gonna pay for those new gas lines they have to put in.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it's
It is,
coming back to. A lot of it's coming back to that
I will
too.
tell you, we've had numerous calls, through the businesses and the residents and stuff like that about asking about propane. They're already, I know of several businesses that are fixing to put in propane tanks and cut away from the natural gas.
Somebody selling propane the other day for 99 cents a gallon.
Yeah, so,
They're giving it away in Canada.
yeah,
Yeah,
almost give you a tank too.
Yeah.
that's, and that's the other thing we may have to address at some point too, is if these kind of things push more people, particularly businesses, to propane, then we may have to look at some safety
Guidelines.
regulations or guidelines for propane
Where
installation.
you put them and.
So, just want to make you aware, it's the kind of thing you're probably gonna hear about, and so let you know what actually did occur. And by the way, Ameren does the same thing. They're a little cheaper on the small commercial accounts, but they've applied for a rate increase, which they expect to get anytime soon. And Ameren's kind of the other natural gas company in southern Illinois, if you will. So, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailey. Next committee report, Mr. Barfield, sir.
Yes, sir, Mayor, we have one item, and this was not discussed at our Water Last Week committee meeting, but I will make a motion to accept authorizing HMG to proceed with bids for the interceptor manhole rehabilitation project, excluding work to be performed by the city public works staff.
Second.
This is a project that's been going on, kinda like the 12th Street project. Mr. Carroll has been involved in a long time. This is one of the next phases of our, long-term plan to do away with our infiltration into the Ohio River. The excluding work to be performed by the city of Metropolis would be of a savings of about $50,000 to $60,000. It'll just be the cost of the manhole covers and a couple of extensions and things like that, and we can do that ourselves. So that $50,000 is just money ahead to
Do something else.
do another project and stuff like that. So we do have a motion, we do have a second. Okay, Mr. Canada.
I might add that you all have set money aside for this
Yes.
project, so you have money on hand for this. This is not something you have to go out and look for. You did set it aside.
We do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's another one of them projects we've been trying to get done for years.
This will be a big savings and things like that. And Chad's really been instrumental in helping with that and stuff like that. So, and Frank also in the water department. So there's been plenty to go around.
That
Next,
concludes our report, Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Barfield.
Thank you.
Department heads, Mr. Massey.
Just an update on David Bowman. He,
He actually came to City Hall today.
that's what I heard.
Uh-huh.
So it
In
looks like he
a
has a
vehicle.
cyst on his pancreas that's causing some problems, and I guess he's going some testing in St. Louis. And if the tests go the way they think it is, they're gonna drain that, cyst, and, hopefully he'll be back on the path. I have him scheduled off at least through October. Hopefully he will make it back, and, we're still hoping and praying, and we're carrying on.
Good job.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Frank?
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
I will tell you, while Frank's here, there is going to be something coming up out of the sewer disposal plan of a problem that has arose down there. This week, Frank's doing some preliminary work through the engineers to find out what the process to correct the problem is going to be. It's not a easy fix. It's bigger than a pump. So, in the next several days, it may be a week, possibly not, we will be probably calling to give Frank the authority to go out and start the process of eliminating the problem. And I will be asking the first 4 aldermen I can get on the telephone to actually authorize the extra expenditures and stuff like that that it's going to take to get the job done.
Very good.
If you flush and it doesn't happen, you'll know the
Yeah.
problem.
Make a call. Make a call.
You never have too much with the sewer till you flush and
That's right.
nothing happens.
That's right.
You can even, the water can even be running, guys. You don't have a problem with the sewer till you flush it and it don't work. That's when this housewife will really come apart. Next item, under department heads, planning and zoning department, Chad Murray, please.
The Massac Memorial Hospital approached the planning and zoning department with the need to build a detached garage to store their ambulances in. And they ran out of room on their property due to regulations and rules and regulations as far as spacing goes. So they own an empty lot across the street. It's in a residentially zoned district, so we directed them towards a special use permit as opposed to rezoning that lot. That way they could build this detached structure. Don't know if there was a picture of it in your packet, but I do have one here tonight if you're concerned. We held a planning commission review, a second planning commission review, and then a zoning board of appeals hearing, which had a pretty good public turnout from the people who live out there in Hospital Edition. They're gonna be very critical of buffering, screening, setbacks, and it's for storage only. This isn't going to be a call out or a functioning ambulance service. They're just gonna park their ambulances there. They don't have a way to keep them out of the elements. special use permit will more than likely transfer ownership so long as someone else continues to park ambulances there. So we're looking for a motion tonight to suspend the rules, place an ordinance granting a special use permit to Massac Memorial Hospital upon its passage, and eventually adopt an ordinance tonight, hopefully granting a special use permit to Massac Memorial Hospital.
You do need a motion.
Will the drivers be, stationed in the hospital if they have a call, they go get an
Correct.
ambulance?
The ambulance that leaves the hospital is going to be at the emergency room exit like it typically is.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
always going to leave like it
That's basically
typically
what it
does.
is.
They're just, if one was to leave, they might pull one out and pull it over there just to be ready.
Yeah.
But typically, they're not going to be coming and going
Oh, yeah.
from that facility like it's an on-call service facility. They're gonna leave the hospital with it.
We do have a motion by Mr. McManus,
Second.
second by Mr. Carroll. And I would like to, before we take a vote, commend Chad and the planning and the zoning people. Spent several hours going over all that. In the public hearing segment, there was probably 12,
I think about 17 people
Yeah.
showed up.
17 people here. There was no immediate, there was 2 questions asked by a resident. They weren't objecting to the project. They had some questions about buffering, and one of the questions was Mr. Carroll, what he said, you know, they're going to use it for storage. If you notice, they do have a brand new ambulance, you know, in the city now. It will be to keep those ambulances out of the weather. When one ambulance leaves, they'll take the other ambulance out of the garage, the way I understand it, move it to the emergency room. They will be leaving the same way they've always left. So, you know, they won't be coming out of there unless they have some kind of a major emergency and stuff like that. I do think it's,
And this is another lot out there that's set empty for 40
And it will
something
put something
years.
back on the taxes,
And,
so.
across the street, you've got the old driver's.
we do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we need a motion to adopt.
An ordinance granting a special use permit to Massac Memorial Hospital.
Mr. McManus and Mr. Canada. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
You're welcome.
Next item, old business.
Jerry's not here.
No, no. You know, maybe we just,
He whispers it to everybody that we.
maybe we just think about it in behalf of Jerry.
That's right.
New business. Miscellaneous reports. Financial report, payment of salaries, payroll, and contract bills.
No vote.
Moved by Mr. Carroll. Second by Mr. McManus. And call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. And Short.
Yes.
Thank you.
Payment of miscellaneous bills.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Carroll. Second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
McManus. And Short.
Yes.
We
Thank
do
you.
have need for an executive session on collective bargaining, sale, lease, or exchange of real estate.
That's it.
All right. That's why I've got the big bucks. Yes, sir.
Anything? I get my
Hi.
report from the fire.
You have
You
anything?
certainly can.
Well, the Fire and Police Commission has been busy again. This time we've been doing testing for promotions to sergeant. These jobs are only open to existing Metropolis Patrol officers. We had 3 candidates apply for it. They're all very excellent candidates. They did real well in the written test. The written test is really hard. I looked at some of the questions just like, I'm glad I'm not a police officer. These are impossible questions. It's difficult. And the oral interviews went through it. so. So we're going to be promoting Ricky Griffey from acting sergeant to regular sergeant. He's doing the job now, he's getting compensated for it now, so there's no impact on money or budget or anything. He was top scorer, he's been doing the job for how long?
What's that?
Ricky Griffey's how long he's been acting sergeant?
Couple months.
Couple of months. He's doing real well. These fellows have just an amazing background, experience with the police department. They've all have an average on-the-job time here in Metropolis of like 15 years or so. So they know the city and what's going on very well. So Ricky's going to be promoted to a regular sergeant, and we've got 2 other people on the waiting list for sergeant. And that brings up one other issue. We have a vacancy for a police officer, and I understand that the money's been taken out of the budget for that position, and Chief Massey probably needs to address that issue. Right now, he's paying out overtime and stuff for, to make up the hours and stuff. And, Chief, would you like to address that?
I don't know what we're gonna do today, I thought it'd be for a committee, so, it is true with the retirement of, Officer Garner, that, day shift is running short, with Officer Bowman sick and Joey Grimes is gonna be going for surgery in the middle of the next month, day shift's gonna be extremely short. But, we were able to cover the detective one by pulling Ricky out of the drug task force and that covered, and I'm not even trying to replace that right now. I think there should be a committee meeting talked about at least for the replacement of the officer, just to get everybody back to minimum staffing.
I'm under the impression that
Mr. Massey, sir, could you name our sergeants?
Cody Brown,
Okay.
Joe Basham,
Okay.
Bruce Laird,
Okay.
and Carl Manley.
And this would be your 5th one?
Right, and he would replace Sergeant Deming, who retired,
Manley?
and he would go into the detective
Well,
unit.
we're trying to figure out if we have to create a position.
Oh, no,
No,
it's,
hang on. There was 3 positions created in 1987 for sergeant. 1 created in 1989. Deming was a sergeant that was moved to investigations. They couldn't demote him back to sergeant. There's never been a position created for a sergeant in investigations. That's what we're trying to decide. If we have
there's
to
always
create
a quiet
a
possession there.
Yeah, that's what I said, if we have to create a position for it or not, before we, the promotion's actually made.
Manley's a sergeant, right?
Yes, he's working right now. He's the evening shift.
I mean, they need a sergeant over investigations. I'll make a motion to create a position if we need to create a position.
We'll probably need to do that police and fire commission on September 30th.
Why don't you just continue to, let's find out. Let's do it right.
Yeah.
That's,
Go ahead and continue to pay him his sergeant's pay, just like you are right now. It may need to go before Mr.
Fire and
Carroll's,
police.
police and fire to actually establish that position for the investigator sergeant. And then, no harm, no foul, he's getting paid, and then we'll go from there. All right?
I think,
All right.
Plus,
All right, with you,
plus
Mr.
the,
Ken?
plus the
That's
open
fine, yeah.
position, and we'll discuss that then.
unless you guys know something that we don't know, whether
Yeah, I
there's
mean-
one created between 89 and now.
I'm fairly new at this commission, so I would.
Yeah.
Bill was on the commission when all those positions was created. 87, 89 was one of the ones that was created, wasn't it, Bill?
He never heard you.
Now, who actually?
Bill.
You were on the commission when that position's created, right?
Yes.
How many positions was created, Mr. Carroll?
How many positions? I thought it was 5. For sergeant, you mean?
Yes, sir.
I thought it was 5.
You think there was 5?
There was 3 in 87,
Huh?
3 in 87,
And then
1 in 89.
4?
Unless something was done between 89 and 2015. that I'm
See,
not
I wasn't
aware of.
there then either.
That's,
Why don't we find that out,
Okay.
and either way, we'll take it to committee that day.
Is it the
Rectify
fire and police
it.
committee that creates the job position, or the fire and police commission that
we
creates?
gotta open up
Well,
the
you
position
gotta-
before you can fill it.
city council will have to open that position up, it's your job to fill them, certainly, always, not the city council's. It's your job to fill it, but they need to, if it's not there, they need to create it. If there was only 4 created, we're not saying, I think everybody here agrees that they probably need one over the investigators. But it probably needs to be done by the city council.
I think city council can do that. So that still means the issue
Have a
of
good
what to
Mr.
do
Carroll
about the
something to
missing
look
patrol officer position. I think it's, like I said, been taken out of the budget, but they're paying overtime, they're short-staffed, and the overtime, it probably looks good at first for the officers, they're getting paid extra money and stuff, but working a job with a lot of overtime eventually tends to be a lot of stress on you. These guys are under a lot of stress as it is, and adding this extra workload to them can't help a whole lot. So it's pretty much up to you guys if you wanna put it back in the budget or not.
Chief,
For an extra guy,
Not an extra guy, filling a position that was over by retirement.
it was when we, well, that's a different story for a different time, but
We need to put,
when we created the budget, you know, the city council informed Mr. Massey that those 2 positions would not be filled. They allowed him to bring Ricky back in off the drug task force as a full-time officer and hire a dispatcher. And that's all we're going to do probably at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that nobody, and we're not going to pay any more overtime than we have to. We may just have to do less, but we're gonna have to do it with the amount of men we got. We can't afford another one.
Yeah, doing less is a problem because somebody calls for a police officer in the middle of the night, they're gonna want somebody to show up.
And I don't disagree with you, but we have more police officers of 6,500 people than anybody in southern Illinois. So we are not going to hire another police officer probably.
That's all I have to say. Thank
Yeah.
you.
We do have a motion by Mr. McManus. He can't wait to get into executive session.
Which one else?
And a
we got?
second. Mr. Kennedy.